Kurupuri is the spirit of the woods, something terrible, something to be avoided. It is a word of terror along the Amazon. Now all tribes agree as to the direction in which Kurupuri lives. It was the same direction from which the American had come. Something terrible lay that way. It was my business to find out what it was. I got two of the natives as guides. After many adventures, we came at last to a tract of country which has never been described or visited except by the artist Napple White. Would you look at this? He handed me a photograph. This is one of the few which partially escaped on our way back. Our boat was upset. There was talk of faking. I'm not in the mood to argue such a point. This photograph was certainly very off colored. It represented a long and enormously high line of cliffs with trees in the foreground. The same place as the painted picture, said I. Yes, the professor answered. We progress, do we not? Now, will you please look at the top of that rock? Do you observe something there? An enormous tree. But on the tree, a large bird, said I. He handed me a lens. Yes, I said, looking through it. A large bird stands on the tree. It has a great beak. A pelican? It was my interest you that I shot it. It was the only absolute proof of my experiences. You have it then? I had it. It was unfortunately lost in the same boat accident which ruined my photographs. Only a part of its wing was left in my hand. He took it out. It was at least 2 feet in length, a curved bone with a membranous veil beneath it. A monstrous bat, I suggested. Nothing of that sort, said the professor severely. The wing of a bat consists of 3 fingers with membranes between it. Now you can see that this is a single membrane hanging upon a single bone, and therefore that it cannot belong to a bat. What is it then? I really do not know, I said. Here, said he, pointing to the picture of the extraordinary flying monster, is an excellent reproduction of the pterodactyl, a flying reptile of the Jurassic period. On the next page is a diagram of the mechanism of its wing. Compare it with the specimen in your hand. A wave of amazement passed over me as I looked. I was convinced. There could be no getting away from it. The proof was overwhelming. The sketch, the photographs, the narrative, and now the actual specimen, the evidence was complete. It's just the very biggest thing that I ever heard of, I cried. It's colossal. You have discovered a lost world. I'm awfully sorry if I seem to doubt you. The professor purred with satisfaction. And then, sir, what did you do next? I managed to see the plateau from the pyramidal rock upon which I saw and shot the pterodactyl. It appeared to be very large. I could not see the end of it. Below it is jungly region, full of snakes, insects, and fever. It's a natural protection to the country. Did you see any other trace of life? No, I did not, but we heard some very strange noises from above. But what about the creature that the American drew? We can only suppose that he must have made his way to the rock and seen it there. The only is a very difficult one. That's why the creatures do not come down and overrun the surrounding country. But how did they come to be there? There can only be one explanation. South America is a granite continent. At the single point in the interior, there has been a great sudden volcanic upheaval. These cliffs, I may remark, are basaltic and therefore plutonic, and a large area has been lifted up with all as its living contents. What is the result? Creatures survive which would otherwise disappear. You will observe that both the pterodactyl and the stegosaurus are Jurassic. They have been artificially conserved by those strange accidental conditions. Your evidence is conclusive. You have only to tell the world about it. I can only tell you that I was met by incredulity, born partly of stupidity and partly of jealousy. It's not my nature, sir, to prove a fact if my word has been doubted. When men like yourself, who represent the foolish curiosity of the public, came to disturb my privacy, I was unable to meet them with open arms. By nature, I am fearing. I fear you may have remarked it. I touched my eye and was silent. Well, I invite you to be present at the exhibition. Challenger handed me a card from his desk. Mr. Percival Waldron, a naturalist of some popular repute, is to lecture at 80:30 at the Zoological Institute Hall upon the record of the ages. I have being specially invited. Maybe a few remarks may arouse the interest of the audience. We'll see. By all means, come. It will be a comfort to me to know that I have one ally in the hall, however inefficient and ignorant of the subject. No public use is to be made of any of the material that I have given you, but Mr. McCardle, my news editor, will want to know what I have done. Tell him what you like. I leave it to you that nothing of all this appears in print. Very good. Then the Zoological Institute's hall at 8:30 tonight. Chapter 5. Question. McCardle was at his post as usual. "Well," he cried expectantly, "don't tell me that he attacked you. We had a little difference at first. What a man it is! What did you do?" "Well, he became more reasonable and we had a chat, but I got nothing out of him, nothing for publication. You got a black eye out of him, and that's for publication. Mr. Malone, we must bring the man to his bearings. Just give me the material. I'll show him up for the fraud he is." "I wouldn't do that, sir." "Why not?" "Because he is not a fraud at all." "You don't mean to say that you really believe this stuff about mammoths and mastodons?" "I do believe he has got something new." I told him the professor's narrative in a few sentences. "Well, Mr. Malone," he said at last, "about this scientific meeting tonight. You will be there in any case, so you will just give us a pretty full report. That day I met Tarp Henry. He listened to my story with a skeptical smile on his face, and roared with laughter at hearing that the professor had convinced me. My dear friend, things don't happen like that in real life. People don't stumble upon enormous discoveries and then lose their evidence. Leave that to the novelists. The man is full of tricks. Will you come to the meeting with me?" I asked suddenly. Tarp Henry looked thoughtful. "He is not a popular person," said he. "I should say he is about the best hated man in London. If the medical students turn out there will be no end of a mess. You might at least do him justice to hear him state his own case." "Well, it's fair. All right. I'm your man for the evening." When we arrived at the hall we found more people than I expected. The audience would be popular as well as scientific. We had taken our seats. Looking behind me, I could see rows of faces of the familiar medical student type. Apparently, the great hospitals had each sent down their contingent. The behavior of the audience at present was good humored but mischievous. The greatest demonstration of all, however, was at the entrance of my new acquaintance, Professor Challenger, when we passed down to take this place. Such a yell of welcome broke forth that I began to suspect Tarp Henry was right that this audience was there not for the sake of the lecture, but because the famous professor would take part in the proceedings.